Hi everybody. Today we are at Horseshoe Springs in Utah's Skull Valley. Horseshoe Springs is both a wildlife management area and a historic site along the California National Historic Trail, and it is located in Tooele County's Skull Valley here in Utah. Historically, the springs were used by various indigenous peoples like the Goshute Indians, and they were visited by early explorers of the American West such as Jedediah Smith. In the late 1840s, the springs provided a needed respite for migrant travelers seeking to shorten the distance to California by using the Hastings Cutoff Trail, which, as proposed by Lansford Hastings in the 1845 publication, The Immigrant's Guide to Oregon and California, was an alternative route for westward immigrants to travel to California. This route shortened the trip by almost 300 miles. This was also a stop on the now infamous Donner-Reed Party Route. Today, in addition to a historical site, this area is a wildlife management area and is managed for its important riparian, fisheries, and wildlife habitat. It also features a half-mile-long hiking trail that meanders around both of the springs. Now, the trailhead to go out and hike around the springs is right here at the southwestern side of the parking lot, where you can see Raven walking across the bridge. But first, we're going to walk over to this little kiosk that they have here and take a look at some of the information they have. Now, they have 3 different signs here in this kiosk. The first one talks about the first explorations to the Great Salt Desert. The second one talks about the Great Salt Desert itself. And the third one talks about the Great Immigrant Flood of 1849 to 1854. And as you can see on this map here, this is the California Trail as it went up to Fort Hall in southern Idaho and then made its way down into Nevada. And you can see right here at Fort Bridger in Wyoming, this is where the Hastings Cutoff started. It made its way down Weber Canyon and eventually ended up in the area that is now Salt Lake City. And then it worked its way across. A lot of the immigrants like to stop because this was one of the last yet reliable springs of fresh water before they had to cross the Great Salt Lake Desert. Now, if any of you have been along I-80 between Salt Lake City and Wendover, you've driven through the Great Salt Lake Desert, and it is flat, desolate, and there is no fresh water out there. So they would take this route across the desert to a place called Pilot Peak, where they could find a good spring. That's a little bit north of Wendover. They would cut across this part of Nevada, down the Ruby Mountains, over a place called Harris Pass, and meet up with the California Trail just west of the Elko area. So let's go take a walk around Horseshoe Springs and take a look at things. First thing you're going to come to, of course, is this muddy bridge here. A couple of old logs. There is a small trail register here. I'm not exactly sure if it is still operational, but let's take a look. Nope, just full of rusty nails and screws and graffiti. These springs are considered warm springs. They have an average year-round temperature of around 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And from what I was reading as I was doing some research on this place, they do have fish in there, and you can fish in them. I don't think you can see it, but there's a few big fish swimming around in the bottom of them right now. Now, you can also swim in these springs if you want. Like I said, they are warm springs. They're not really cold, but then again, they're not really hot. It's probably not something you're going to want to do in the wintertime. Summertime, it's probably a great spot to cool off. I don't know if you can see the lighter patterns out here under the water, but that is actually where the water bubbles up underneath or from the bottom of the springs. This is the deepest part right here, but it's only about maybe 3-4 feet deep. You don't want to be diving in it or anything like that. Now, as you can see, when we get to the far end of the pool, it gets much more shallow. And we have this little spot here where it actually runs out into a stream. And there's a good amount of water flow coming through here. Now, the reason they call them Horseshoe Springs is there are 2 of these pools. So the 2 streams coming out of the springs end up meeting down here and forming one stream that flows out into the valley and eventually into the Great Salt Lake. Now, as I come walking up here, I see a lot of ripples in the water from fish. I think they can see us, or at least the dogs, and they decide to try and get out of the way. Maybe we can see some. Yeah, they're swimming along over there. I don't know if the camera's going to pick any of this stuff up, though. Right here is the confluence of the two springs and the streams that flow out of them. I guess you could call it the bottom of the horseshoe. This is where the two streams come together and they start flowing out west. And there's a lot of pretty important wetland area here. Like I had mentioned earlier, this is an area that they've protected because of its riparian habitat. There's lots of fish, frogs, you get a lot of migratory birds that come through here. And there, of course, are other types of animals that live out here, like coyotes and lots of birds. These big mountains with all the snow on them are the western slope of the Stansbury Mountains. Up in those clouds, you're going to find Deseret Peak. If you would like to see what that looks like, I will post a link to a video I did last year of a hike up to Deseret Peak. So this is the other spring. This is the larger of the two. And we'll walk up here and walk around this a little bit and check it out. Some of these crossings can be a little muddy, so you're going to want to watch your step here. There's a third smaller spring that flows right down here. And here is the bigger of the two springs. This is quite a large pool. It's got that section over there, and then of course this whole area here. This is all pretty shallow. You can see quite a few fish in here too. This water sure is a nice color today. It's trying to warm up too. It was a little cool this morning. But there are bugs and flies out already, surprisingly. Well, we're going to head back to the parking area and we're going to go across the street, and I'm going to show you guys a really nice area to go camping in, and it also offers some really nice hiking over in this area. So we'll be back with you in just a couple minutes. So we're at the Skull Valley Off-Road Camping area, and as you get in here, you're going to be just north of what is called Horseshoe Knoll. And this sits right to the east of Horseshoe Springs. And this area has several really nice campsites. It has about 7 of them that are accessible by pretty much any vehicle, including RVs. Isabel and I had spent a couple of weeks camping out here last year, and we were able to get our 34-foot Winnebago into these campsites. There are probably about 4 of them that you can get the Winnebagos into, no problem. The other ones would be ones that would be easily accessible if you're in a pickup truck with some sort of a fifth wheel or a trailer. We drove up here, parked right over there. I'm going to walk up here to this ridge and show you the view on the other side. You'll have a great view of Horseshoe Springs and a really nice view of the whole camping area here. As you can see, it's getting quite scenic. Now, from up here, we have a very nice view of Skull Valley, and you can see right down here is Horseshoe Springs, the parking area, the road going into the area, and you have a really nice view of both of the springs. Over here is where you come in. You can see there's a campsite down there. That's probably the best suited for an RV. It's right off of the highway. It's nice and flat, has a fire pit, but there are several other areas. There's an old gravel pit over here. And as you work your way up the road, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 areas that you can probably get an RV in. And then the other 3 going up the road towards the mountains, you'll be able to bring in a pickup truck with a 5th wheel or, whatever you want to camp in. And then this area here where you have all of the juniper trees, there is a lot of really nice camping up here underneath the trees. It's more shaded. It's going to be sheltered. It is a little bit sandy, so I would not bring a car up here. This is definitely someplace you're going to want at least a 4-wheel drive or an all-wheel drive vehicle to get into. But we're going to continue to walk up here, and we're going to check out the view from up on this hill. And then I'll take you down and show you some of the campsites here. Now, if you have a capable vehicle and you can get up this, there's a really nice camping spot that I quite like right here. You have a commanding view of Skull Valley and Horseshoe Springs. It's nice and flat. There's a fire pit. It's all perfectly laid out. But we're going to continue up this road and go up to the top of this rock outcrop here. It is just a really beautiful day out here. It's one of those days you could just sit up here and watch the clouds float through the sky all day long. We had a big storm that came through the area the last couple days, so things are really nice and clear right now. We're going to head back down to the truck and Benjamin, and then we're going to do a drive-through of this camping area, and I'll show some of the campsites to you. Well, this first one here is pretty nice. One thing that's kind of unfortunate, though, I get really disappointed in my fellow human beings. They come out to these beautiful areas and they just feel like it's acceptable to leave their garbage that they generate in these areas after they get done using it. At least these guys left a bag here. I'm going to clean it up. I usually bring garbage bags with me and try to clean up when I'm out in these areas. So I'm going to take a few minutes and do that. Now, as you can see, this is a really nice campsite, except for the obvious. I really just don't get it with people, why they can't just pick up after themselves. But yeah, this place is quite a mess. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time cleaning it up. But aside from that, these areas are really nice up here for camping. They're flat, they're sheltered, you've got shade, you've got protection from the wind. They're really nice areas. I like camping up here. But I'm going to clean some of this up. Well, I got most of it. There were a lot of little kids' toys all over the ground, in addition to all the other garbage that they left. And the other thing that was really kind of disappointing and why I'm not going to clean it up is they use the bathroom. There's a whole section back here where they went and took a shit and just threw their toilet paper on the ground. Wow. Yeah, that's really gross. If I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 bags in these buckets, most of the other campsites looked pretty clean. It's just these two were exceptionally dirty. Now, most of these other sites look pretty clean. It's just a small percentage of people that come up here and leave these places looking like that one back there. don't let that deter you. This is still a really nice place, and if you come out here and you see that, I'd encourage you to bring a couple of trash bags and do a little cleanup. These are our public lands here, and oftentimes the public land managers don't have the time or the manpower to come out and be able to deal with all this kind of stuff. So, we as public land owners can help fill in the gap with our volunteer work out here. I mean, really, if you have a bunch of friends with you, bring some garbage bags, makes quick work of it. I'd recommend bringing some gloves too. Well, there you have it. Warm Springs, interesting history, free camping, hiking, all sorts of things right out here in Skull Valley. This is a fantastic place with lots of outdoor opportunities, and I would highly recommend coming out here and checking it out. I'll make sure to put the coordinates to the springs, to the camping areas, and if you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please leave them in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed this video and you found it informative, give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos about hiking, camping, and other things out here on America's public lands, consider subscribing to this channel, and you can join us each week for something different. We'll see you guys then.